I am Dean, and this whole nightmare started when me and a girl named Emily were stuck drifting on the open ocean in a tiny lifeboat, day after day, with nothing but endless water around us, the sun burning our skin, our mouths dry, our stomachs twisting with hunger. And while Emily was scared, out of her mind, and barely holding herself together, I felt something strange inside because the moment I really looked at her, I fell for her. Her plot armors were very big, and even in that hopeless situation, my eyes were full of belief, like fate had messed up our lives just to give me one chance to be with her. And then one day, through the heat and the blur of the sea, we saw a small island far away, and Emily suddenly came alive, pointing at it and begging me to take the boat toward the shore. But my body was done, my arms weak, my head spinning, hunger crushing me, and I honestly didn't think I could move anymore until the wind started blowing at the perfect moment, pushing the lifeboat forward like the ocean itself wanted us to live, and the boat slammed gently onto the sand. And as soon as Emily stepped onto land, her legs gave out, and she almost collapsed, her eyes closing as she ran desperately to search for anything edible, while all I wanted was water to wash myself because I'd been floating in salt, sweat, and dirt for 3 days. And that's when the island felt like paradise to me, with green plants, open space, and even a natural hot spring rising from the ground. So I called Emily to come over, and as we stood there, I kept thinking about how insane it was that just a week ago we didn't even know each other, living completely different lives. Emily coming from a rich family, always surrounded by comfort, loved by everyone because of her kind heart, yet never really in love, secretly listening to her friends talk about romance and wishing she could feel it too, hoping this graduation trip would finally end her single life, while I was the total opposite, a stubborn guy kicked out of multiple schools, someone who hated rules, never listened to anyone, and just wanted to run away from how boring and trapped my life felt. And then my thoughts went back to that night on the graduation yacht, the music, the lights, the party on the deck, Emily standing quietly in a corner while her best friend tried to push her to talk to a guy, her wanting to but not having the courage, and then everything exploding into chaos when the police showed up out of nowhere, people screaming and running, someone accidentally shoving Emily into the water, me seeing a body fall and jumping in without thinking, dragging her onto a small rescue boat. And before she could even understand what had happened, I cut the rope because I didn't want the cops taking me back home, thinking we'd just wait it out for a bit. But then the sky cracked open with heavy rain, the wind turned violent, the yacht disappeared into the darkness, and when we tried screaming for help, we realized the rescue boat had no engine at all, leaving us completely helpless in the middle of the ocean. And somehow, against all odds, we survived long enough to reach this island where Emily later found beautiful white berries that looked perfect to eat. And just in time, I stopped her, warning her that the prettiest fruit is often poisonous and only dark blue or purple berries are usually safe, even though she didn't fully understand and her hunger was killing her. And as the hours passed, the waves crashed harder, the sky grew darker, and fear slowly wrapped around our hearts. We decided to head back toward the beach, and on the way down, I found a dark, free cave that could have protected us from the storm, but Emily refused immediately, saying she'd only ever stayed in luxury hotels and couldn't survive in a place like that. And right as she said it, a swarm of bats burst out of the cave, sending us both into panic, making us run back to the shore, only to find our lifeboat gone, blown away by the wind. And that's when Emily completely broke down, crying on the empty beach, while even my forced optimism disappeared, the sun sinking, darkness spreading, no boats anywhere, no escape, so we had no choice but to treat survival like a challenge. I tried again and again to start a fire with shaking hands, while Emily checked her phone with almost no battery and no signal. Cold, hungry, scared, and without thinking, I took off my jacket and gave it to her, because that felt like the only right thing to do. And later, as we tried to rest, she suddenly heard a terrifying sound echoing from deep inside the hills, something strange and unknown, and it scared her so badly she didn't sleep the entire night. And the next afternoon, I woke up feeling a little stronger, but my heart dropped when I didn't see her beside me, and I ran to the beach in panic until I spotted her building a huge SOS sign out of driftwood in the sand, her phone completely dead. And that's when reality hit me hard that if we didn't do something fast, this island would become our grave. So I stripped down and dove into the ocean, swimming harder than I ever had in my life, while back home, the school and our families were searching nearby beaches, believing we were dead, not knowing that Emily was desperately searching the island for fresh water and I was fighting the sea, both of us refusing to give up on life or each other. And when Emily went back alone to those warm water pools she had discovered the day before. She told me later that she felt this deep, uncomfortable feeling like someone was watching her from the trees. A quiet but terrifying feeling that made her heart race. So she didn't stay there long and ran straight back to me, breathing hard and shaken. And that moment made me realize something important, that when a man and a woman work together, things really do become easier. Because I knew a few basic skills from working with wood, so using broken branches, palm leaves, and my bare hands, I slowly built a small shelter. Nothing big or perfect, but strong enough to protect us from the harsh sun during the day and the rain at night. And when Emily saw it standing there, her eyes filled with relief. And later that same day, I found wild coconuts lying near the trees. And when we cracked them open and tasted the sweet flesh inside, it felt like the best meal of our lives, lifting our spirits instantly. And not long after that, we even found wild bananas. And those simple fruits were enough to keep us alive for now. And once our hunger settled down, my thoughts started wandering, and I kept catching myself looking at Emily, noticing her smile, her presence, and thinking that this strange, second chance life shouldn't be wasted. So I invited her to swim with me, hoping it would calm my mind, but it didn't, because my feelings were growing stronger. And while she stood under the warm waterfall, washing away days of fear and exhaustion, I stood nearby, watching, thinking about how different everything felt here, and a strange idea crossed my mind about creating a new life, our own small world, far away from rules and pain. And unlike most people who would fall into despair on a deserted island, I felt alive, surrounded by beautiful nature and a girl who made me feel hopeful, like I was finally living a life I had only dreamed about. While far away, Emily's parents were spending huge amounts of money searching for her. Weeks turned into months with no news, and even the police slowly stopped looking, believing we had been swallowed by the ocean. But Emily's parents never stopped hoping, and neither did Emily, because every day she remembered her old life, growing up rich, never worrying about food or clothes, a life completely different from mine because I came from nothing, and no one even noticed that I was missing. And one day, filled with anger and frustration, I slammed a piece of wood hard into the ground, and that's when everything changed, because beneath the sand, I uncovered a hidden human skeleton, old and broken. And the moment Emily saw it, her whole body started shaking, fear locking her in place. Her mind stuck on one terrifying thought, that one day she might end up the same way, forgotten and buried, and her mental strength started to crack. But I held her and promised her that as long as I was alive, nothing would happen to her. And slowly, with my words and presence, she calmed down. And that's when our bond turned into something deeper, something real, a romantic connection. And for Emily, it was her very first experience of love. And that night, she slept so deeply that she didn't wake up until the next evening. But when she opened her eyes, I wasn't there, and panic rushed through her as she called my name again and again, until she walked deeper into the jungle and found me digging a pit in the ground, preparing to bury the skeleton with respect. And she didn't understand why I was doing it. And we argued, emotions running high, and in her anger, she jumped into the pit, and by accident, my shovel struck her leg, blood flowing instantly. And that shock ended our fight, because fear replaced anger. And later, she shared a new worry with me, asking what would happen if one of us got sick out here with no help. And seeing her fear, I told her we needed to focus on living well today, not drowning in tomorrow's fear. And I explained why I needed to bury those bones, telling her about my mother, how she died without a proper funeral, a pain I carried my whole life, teaching me that even the dead deserve dignity. And Emily finally understood, and she joined me again in the warm water. And to pass the long days, we played simple games, talked for hours, laughed, and she couldn't believe that someone like me had been kicked out of schools. And during one quiet, honest conversation, I told her my biggest secret about years ago, driving in the snow with friends, losing control, surviving while one friend died because help came too late, something that wasn't truly my fault but still haunted me. And as I spoke, regret pouring out of me, heavy rain began to fall, as if the sky itself understood my pain, and I walked through the rain while Emily watched, feeling her own emotions rise, realizing that our lives were now deeply connected. While far away, her family kept searching, hiring planes to scan the ocean, printing flyers, spreading them everywhere, but still finding nothing. Storm season creeping closer, Emily's mother growing thinner and weaker from worry, her friends drowning in guilt. And when the rain finally stopped and her mother returned home, her heart shattered when she saw flowers and messages covering the front door, because the world had already decided that Emily was dead. And what the world never knew knew was that Emily and I were still alive, still breathing, still fighting, sitting on the quiet shore day after day, watching the sun slowly rise from the ocean and then disappear back into it. And she noticed how I would stare at the sea for hours, lost in thought, like I was searching for a way out, while I noticed how worry never really left her face, no matter how hard she tried to smile, and I hated seeing her like that. So I pushed myself harder, swimming deeper into the ocean than ever before just to catch fish, risking my life every time so our meals could feel a little better, a little more normal. And as months passed, life on the island became painfully repetitive. The same walks, the same food, the same silence, until Emily slowly started believing that this island was going to be our forever. And honestly, deep down, I started believing it too. But instead of breaking, my mind went in a strange direction, thinking maybe we could turn this place into our own perfect world. Because by the time 2 full years passed, boredom had turned into emptiness. And I felt like having more life around us might make things feel real again. But Emily never stopped thinking about her parents, never stopped hoping to go back home. And then one day, when I was out searching for food like always, the sound of a ship suddenly rolled across the sky, loud and clear, and our hearts nearly stopped as we ran toward the beach, screaming, laughing, crying, reaching for the signal flare. But when I opened my backpack, my blood ran cold because the flare gun was gone, completely missing. And no matter how loud I shouted at the ship, it kept moving away, and Emily finally exploded, blaming me for ruining our only chance. And when she looked around more carefully, she realized that not only the flare gun, but some of her personal belongings were missing too. And that could only mean one terrifying thing, that someone else was on the island with us. But I thought fear was messing with her head, and that disagreement turned into the biggest fight we'd ever had, leaving her so hopeless that she even talked about swimming home, even though we both knew it was impossible. And later, when things went quiet, I stood by the ocean screaming for help, but all I heard was my own voice coming back, and I felt useless, especially seeing how disappointed she was. And then suddenly a strange sound echoed from deep inside the jungle, and for a moment, I thought maybe people lived there, so I forced myself to go in, heart pounding, only to freeze when a black wild cat stepped out in front of me, eyes locked on mine, and fear took over as I turned and ran. But Emily heard the animal too, and ran with me, the wild cat chasing us, faster and closer, until I had no choice but to hide and use the handmade knife I'd crafted to protect us. And when it was over and Emily reached me, she looked at me differently, like she finally believed I could keep her safe. And after that moment, she accepted life on the island, and together we built a stronger wooden house, planned how to survive long term, and slowly settled into this strange new life. While back home, our school friends accepted that Emily and I were gone forever, and only our parents sometimes sat silently in our empty rooms, because losing a child leaves a wound that never really heals. And over time, reality took hold for everyone. While on the island, Emily and I learned how to live with the weather, fishing when the sea was calm and staying inside when storms came, until one day, while thinking about how to store food, a monkey suddenly appeared holding our missing signal flare gun, and hope exploded inside us again. And after chasing and wrestling with it, we finally got the gun back. But in the chaos, Emily accidentally fired one flare into the sky, leaving us with just one chance left and no rescue in sight. And when hope felt completely crushed, she panicked and tried to fire the last flare. But I stopped, telling her not to act without thinking, and that sparked another fight. And I walked away to fish, angry and tired, until she realized her mistake, came to apologize, saying she was sorry. And then something unbelievable happened, because that first flare had actually worked. And we heard the sound of a ship again, closer this time, and we ran to the beach screaming and fired the last flare. And finally, after 2 long years, we were seen and rescued, with our families waiting, cameras flashing. And as we walked hand in hand toward them, everything changed in one moment, because when Emily hugged her parents tightly, I felt the connection between us snap, and when I looked at her, my eyes were full of sadness. But she never looked back, and we returned to our separate lives like the island was just a dream, even though I couldn't stop thinking about her. And days later, I went to her window believing we could start again, but she spoke to me like a stranger, and life moved on, her staying popular and surrounded by people, me fading back into the background until the final school dance arrived. And while she showed up looking beautiful, I sat alone at home feeling invisible, until my dad gave me his old suit and pushed me to go. And in the pouring rain, I finally showed up, and when Emily saw me, tears filled her eyes, and there we were again, meeting in the rain. And I pulled out a ring I had made slipped it onto her finger, asked her to dance, and for a moment, it felt like the island had brought us back together one last time.